Roland Willits, Old Men Stories. I'm here with Billy Wyatt. And now we can start talking again.
Old Men Stories.
Old Men Stories, right.
I guess we've got some, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Places we've been.
Yes.
Places we wish we'd have been. Yeah.
You're telling me about having a gig up in South Dakota now.
It's at the 1880s town, right on Interstate 90 at exit 170. That's all that's there is a gas station in the town.
Oh.
And it's a crossroads heading off to other towns and different places. But the feller that owns the town and pretty much operates it, his name is Richard, and he and his dad, a long time ago, back in the 60s, his dad and he shared a dream to create this 1880 town, just to have it, to share it with other people and just to have it. So they've collected buildings, and the dad is gone now, but they've collected buildings from all over South Dakota that were built during the era between 1850 and about 1900.
Right.
And they populated this entire town with things like a train depot, two big churches, one with a tall steeple that they hauled right down the highway, a huge round barn. Big barn is one of the landmarks of the place, and it's like a three-storied affair.
Right.
You go in on the ground level. They hauled it in one piece also,
Wow.
a great big trailer. You go in on the ground level, and that's the entrance to the town. And it's a huge museum along with a gift shop, and it's not very commercial really. There's things in the gift shop to remind you where you've been, of course, but it's not a bunch of phony toys.
Okay, where is it on 94 in South Dakota?
It's on 90.
90. Oh, it's on 90.
Yes, it's on 90. About 40, 45 miles east of Waldrug.
Okay, that
Everybody
gives us
knows
an
where Waldrug
absolute
is.
reference. Waldrug. Everyone knows where Waldrug is, yes.
Of course, everybody knows where the monument is too.
They had a town somewhere in that area a few years ago. It said "Town for Sale."
Wow.
It was a town off 90, and it was off to the left going west. It was south. It was south of town, and it had said. They had a big sign saying they might have sold it. "Town for Sale." I wonder that is, but I don't know exactly.
Okay, I can't remember the name of that town. It is a little ghost town just east of, I think about 20 miles. No, 10 miles. 10 miles east of the 1880 town is this old town, and everything. There's an old theater,
yes.
Several houses, and some businesses. It's haunted. There's several people that live there, and they see things. They've actually filmed things that should not be happening, but they dare people to go there and stay all night. Nobody does it, of course, because it just, and not that the spirits they think are there are unfriendly. They think they're friendly enough, but they sure are bothersome. You know, they play tricks on people and stuff. And the people that live there are kind of used to it, but at the same time, I wish I could remember. Okoton.
Okoton, is it there?
Okoton is the name of the little used to be town.
Oh.
The last business that they had that was open for quite a while was a big gas station, and even it's closed now.
Okay, now what is this place called that you're at? 1880s? Is that what they call it? What do they call it? What's the name?
1880 town,
That's
Dakota
it.
Territory.
Is that all they call it?
Yeah.
And if you look at it, if you found it on a map, it'd be the 1880 town?
If you can find it, it's called 1880 town. One of the big tour things because there's not very many authentic looking and seeming
Right.
Towns from that era. It's listed in a lot of the travel brochures. And we've had a lot of the travel agencies come through and film pieces and parts of our little show and talk to us and do interviews, and they film the town. We've got trains, we've got mules, we've got horses, we've got a camel named Otis.
Camel named Otis?
Yeah, big old camel named Otis. Sometime or another, the boss's dad decided he had to have this camel. And so he got him, brought him there, and all Otis does is go around, and he's in a fence usually, unless he gets out. When he gets out, he goes crazy. He likes to be bothersome, shall we say. He'll run up to you like he's going to run right over you. He's got a big ugly face on him, just flops back and forth and scare the stuffing out of anybody. Scares all the horses and mules for sure. Nobody can stand up to him unless you actually got your feet nailed to the ground so that you can't get away. he's fearsome, shall we say. Fearsome. It's a good word.
You got a wicked camel.
Yeah, well,
1880s town.
Sometimes he doesn't spit at people even, you know.
Yeah,
sometimes
right?
He's good. But the town is it's remarkable. There's churches, as I said, schools, all types of businesses that you encounter in a working town.
That's right, and you get there once all summer long.
Yep, I'm supposed to be there mid-May. We'll be open. The town opens the 1st of May, but we start performing sometime around Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
And that's through September 15th.
Oh wow, okay.
5 days a week. Of course, there's always entertainment of some sort in the town. And they've got a diner, an actual train diner. And a lot of people eat there. That's really the only food served in town. We serve popcorn and peanuts and sodas and water and coffee in the saloon. It's a non-drinking town. That's okay too.
That's okay. That doesn't hurt a bit.
From 9:45 in the morning, you do not want to be nursing a hangover, because I'm gonna start singing. And you might not like it.
Yes, and you're an awesome singer. I have your CDs that I've been working through. I got one, and I listened to the whole thing, and then we were over at what is it called? The Rack.
Yeah.
Yes, and you were there, and he comes over. He gives me 4 more CDs. I says, "Oh my golly, gee, I got to get all those on my computer and get them ready." And that is absolutely fantastic. I said, I've got to get them all set up, so when he comes over and performs on Omen Story stage, we'll have him. And what we do here, you notice all the noise around. What we do is we have you sing your songs with the recording, and then we knock out the other sounds so that you sing. It's very easy going. It's like you're duetting with yourself. It's easier that way than it is trying to do a soundtrack in a sound studio.
Oh, I know.
So it's and we get to put you in a cool environment. I have to get some Aussie pictures. You did a lot of work in Australia, didn't you?
I've been down there quite a bunch. Me and my wife got married down there in 1999, and she's from Michigan. We'd been together for quite a while, and we had a chance to go on vacation. It was our only vacation together, really. And we had a connection through a hay broker by the name of Larry Farnsworth here in the area. He dabbles in precious stones, and so he was acquainted and is acquainted with an opal miner in Australia,
Oh, that's
who
awesome.
it turns out has quite a large holding in the town of Coober Pedy. He actually lives in South Australia, but he has up in the desert, up in the Simpson, is this town of Coober Pedy, and everybody lives underground. Everything's underground.
I've heard of the mines, and Terry and I are opal fans, and we've got some Australian opal, the best opal in the world.
Yep, the fire opal from down there is so gorgeous.
It's fantastic.
And the way it's just so iridescent.
I just saw a piece like this, biggest in the world. Yeah, I was like, they just found it. Whoa.
And they just dig right out. They dig their house out of the ground. And as they're digging through, they're mining. They're finding what's there, because that whole area around, in and around Coober Pedy is just inundated with opals. You can go there. They'll give you a 5-gallon bucket of opal ore, they call it, and whatever's in that bucket is yours.
Do you know that they actually have the same thing here in the United States?
Back east in the diamond fields.
No, they actually have an opal one.
Okay.
In northwest Nevada.
We're on film. I'm gonna have a cigarette. I do smoke some.
Okay, well, we're gonna have this is for you Aussies who don't have the same problem, or I guess they may have the same problem.
Oh, a lot of them do. We all got problems.
Yeah, well, everyone, I sort of feel bad for the young people that do it because they know all the consequences. But us old fellas didn't have the rules established when everyone started smoking back then.
I started when I was 9. That was wrong, but I did. About Australia, such a wondrous place. It's a magical land. All the way from the indigenous people, the Aborigines. I talked to them, and they talked to me. They like me for some reason. They like my music. They said they were waiting for me for a long time. They knew I was coming. Kind of scares the crap out of you for somebody to say that, especially if you hear it more than once. Through from different parts of the continent there. What I found to be very true, it was, people talk about it, they ha-ha about it, but I found it to be very true, that on the eastern coast of Australia, an Aborigine can say something and want to get a message to someone on the western coast or anywhere else. And within an hour, they know what they're talking about. How did they do this? These people, and we're not talking about with phones.
I know.
These people are magical, and they have a bone structure unlike anybody else on the face of this earth. Some say that they are one of the lost tribes of Israel. Well, in their own history, they say that 40,000 years ago, roughly, they walked there. They don't say which one of them because it's different ones now, but they say we walked here. It was a long distance, and the reason they left where they were was food got scarce. So they left, and they walked, and they walked. And they walked across the land bridge that used to come from up around Vietnam, and down through Indonesia and across to Australia. And they stayed. They called it Gunna Wonderland. And they stayed, and water came up, and went away, whatever. And they loved it. They stayed. Some left and went to Tasmania. Some left and went to New Zealand. Well, as the white man came, a lot of them got murdered off. Boy, we're good at that. We are so good at that.
We're absolutely spectacular at it, appears, yes.
We think that we are so important to the universe. That I'm talking about the white race, and I ain't all white, thank God. But but that we as the Aryan race, or the Church of England, or the Catholic Church of Rome, or any organization, but we think that we are so powerful and so special that we can annihilate entire peoples. That's so wrong. And I hate to be a preacher, because
I think you love to be a preacher.
I do it too good, is the problem. Ain't hard to get me to talk, it's hard to get me to shut up. My mama said that.
You fit right in here. We always have this philosophy. Why say things with one word when 5 is much more fun?
Oh, 100.
100, yeah.
I use 100 words because I have a lot of words in there trying to get out. But I just cannot agree with the way that we have conquered the world.
I absolutely am in agreement with you, but there isn't a lot I can do about it.
No.
But what I can do is I can participate my little 3% here and tell stories and help other people tell stories. And stories are what are going to change our world. Okay? I said, all I'm doing is teaching. I only have 6 billion people to train. I says,
it should be pretty easy.
You know how many stars there are in the sky? 6 billion is just a small number. So you're going to help me tell everyone to tell stories.
As I said, we got married in Australia. That opal miner invited us to come and visit with, of all things, his sister, who was married to a man that had a cousin that has a country music place in Western Australia. Well, we were in Sydney when we landed. We spent 4 days there. We planned our first night.
Wow.
And after that, we just wandered around Sydney. We'd get on a bus and say, take us. And finally end up back where we were supposed to be somehow. Didn't dare to drive because they're on the wrong side of the car, on the wrong side of the road, going really, really fast. And that's way too much for me. But we hopped us a plane to Perth, where we were met by this gentleman's sister. Her brother's cousin has this country music place. Well, she's involved in country music as well. So what she does is she gets together a few people from around the Perth area to talk to us about country music, because they knew that's what I do. And we were met at this lady's house by some folks. She laid out a great big dinner. After the dinner, we sat around talking, and they played some of my music that they had magically come in contact with, probably through my hay broker. And then we talked, and then the subject came up that this feller John Nutting, and I guess John is retired now, had a nationwide broadcast on ABC, the Australian Broadcasting Network, every Saturday night. And they lined it up for me and John to talk over the phone. They got him one of the recorded pieces, and he played the entire album during his show. And then we did like a 2-hour talk over the phone. And it was really good exposure for me in Australia. Great exposure, because from that point forward, people wanted to hear what I do. And so through the connections of those people, I was able to go back to Australia several times. I ain't gonna say I'm really, really well known, but in some places they know me. In some places. I got some really dear friends down on the southern the southern side of Victoria, down in a little place called Blind Bite.
Blind Bite.
Blind Bite. And that has to do with when you take a piece of rope and make a loop out of it, what's right in there is called the blind bite. Well, it's a naval term. Down there on the southern end of Victoria, there's a big old cove that they named Blind Bite. It's a little settlement, and some really dear friends live down there. And then I got friends up in Ballarat.
Right.
Wrote a song about Ballarat. About the black swans that come out of Ballarat.
Oh, wow.
It's the only place on this earth, Australia, the only place on this earth that black swans are native to. And while I was there the last time, I was there through most of 2009, some of 2008, most of 2009. And they were at the tail end of a big long drought all over southern Victoria and South Australia. Just really bad drought. And in the city of Ballarat, which is famous on its own right, because in '49 when they hit gold in California, right after that they hit gold in Death Valley. Then right after that they hit gold in Ballarat in Victoria, Australia. And Ballarat is still one of the largest standing gold strikes, working mine still today, Sovereign Hill, in the world.
Wow.
They still produce lots and lots and lots of gold. For a lot of people to work. Well, the mines have become important again, not just for their gold, but also for the water that they use to wash the ore. Well, they use an arsenic compound to leach some of the gold out, or some of the impurities out of it. So the water that they use is contaminated. They've stored it and stored it and stored it. Now there's a need for that water, and they've obligated it, and I really appreciate it. Because in the middle of Ballarat, that grew up through the mining era in the late 1800s, and it's still just a booming town. They call it the city built on gold, because they've got all these quarried rocks from the areas around. They call them bluestone. And 99% of the older buildings that are still there, and most of them they built so well, were built with bluestone. And the people were paid in gold from the mines. In the middle of the city is a lake that they call Windery, Lake Windery. Back in the day, when the gold mining was going on first, it was called Yulee's Swamp. It was just it's a swamp that fills up with runoff. We have a lot of those around here. And it becomes a lake, a very beautiful lake. It's almost round, right in the middle of Ballarat. Through all of their heyday, they had dredged the lake out, and it became Lake Windery, which is the name that the blackfellas have for it. And it's called Go Away. Go away. Really, really strong go away. You can cut this out. It means it fucks off. When the dry time comes, it goes away. It's gone. But when the wet's here, it's a beautiful, beautiful lake. All kinds of life in it. Well, the lake was dry from this long drought. They finally cut the brush out of it because they were having fires and things. And then here come the rain. The swans had gone a long time ago to somewhere else, because someplace was always wet in Australia. There's always some wet somewhere. But the rain started while I was there. And the big old cracks in the bottom of that lake started filling up with water. And around the lake, all the schools, they call them colleges, for the high schools or colleges there. All the colleges, the boathouses that they had used to learn to row during all the years that the lake was full, finally getting water around them again. Paddle wheel boats that used to be stuck in the mud because when the lake went dry, they just sat right where they were. They broke loose and started floating. These fancy restaurants all around the lake that grew up during the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. In 1956, Melbourne, Australia hosted the Olympics. What they couldn't do around Melbourne was have their rowing competition. Even on one of the most calm bays that they could find, it wasn't calm enough for these little sculling craft. Lake Windery, 100 miles away roughly. Beautiful lake. Well, they set up their Olympic stuff out in the middle of the lake and they filmed all this stuff. It's on, you can find it on the internet, it's way cool. And then there's swans everywhere and they're filming, you know. And then the lake just the people enjoyed the lake until the dry came. And up until 2009 is when they started dedicating water from the mines. And they treated the arsenic and they put water back in that lake, along with the rainfall. They've had record rainfall since then too. The lake is full. Swans are there by the thousands. And it's just gorgeous. They've got a tramway that runs around the lake. The paddle wheels are turning again, they're taking people on tours. All the restaurants are going. The colleges are getting to train their rowers again right there in Ballarat. It's become another payday for Ballarat, along with the gold mining. It just keeps going. I love it. Can you tell?
Yes.
Can you tell?
Yes, I can.
But then I've got friends up in the cattle country.
Yeah.
I've got friends all over Australia. I love it. And I want to go back. I want to go back soon.
Well, you'll be back there.
Yeah. We're working right now on setting up some stuff come fall and winter.
Maybe you can take OMS stories back with you.
You never know.
Hey, you know, it's...
For a brief time, I got to host a TV show down there.
Yeah.
And it was so fun.
Well, OMS stories is about taking yourself to people and their stories. And telling your story along the way.
Yeah.
I always found, if you want to have your story told, you just listen to a whole bunch of others. They'll run out of breath.
Pretty soon you get to talk. Well, like I said, it ain't hard to get me to talk. It's really hard to get me to shut up sometimes.
You're doing absolute. This is your platform here, right there.
Hope I don't fall off of it.
Yeah, you can fall off and get back up again. Life is that's what life is, a process of falling off and getting back up on it.
Me going to Australia so many times. I've been back 7 times since we got married. And sometimes to visit, sometimes to sing, always to search out contacts and people that I can fall in love with, because the people there are so honest. They're so straightforward. They look you right straight in the eye and they mean it. They give you a handshake or a hug. They're big on hugging down there.
I like hugging.
Big old burly people that you'd think, oh, you don't want to hug nobody. They do. They'll come up and put it on you. And you've never been hugged until you've been hugged by a black fella who really means it. He really means it. And they do.
I've been,
They say things.
I haven't had Australians, but I have had Africans.
Yeah.
I was over in Africa. Yep. And of course, when I was in high school, my wrestling partner was the fullback on the football team. He was black. He was the one that I wrestled with all the time. So I had my nose in his armpit more than.
Heck yeah.
So, but the Aussies, I've met a few of the Aborigines, and just to meet them, and they have a little soul difference that you can feel. But you can't put your finger on it, but
Yeah, it'd probably scare us to death if we did know just what's going on, because they are. And I'm not saying all of them, because they've been polluted just like our American natives have. They've been polluted with white man's diseases and white man's vices. And believe me, they've got vices enough on their own. They have things just like our North American Indians down. I don't know if you ever did, but I sampled peyote a few times.
I was just thinking about peyote.
And they've got stuff like that that'll send you over to Tamar and someplace else down there. I never got to do near as much visiting with them as I wanted to. And so that's one of my, I guess you call it bucket list things.
Roland Willits, OMS Stories. We're going to cut off right here.
I just smiled, I wished her well, then I closed the door, 'cause old man Blue